Painkiller ramped up kind of slow, too. You were in some pretty slow-paced levels at the beginning of Painkiller. It took a while to turn into a full-fledged, crazy-ass arena shooter. Kind of like, I guess, Serious Sam 3 ramped up pretty slow, too. The pacing of Sam 3 was a little weird. And I was honestly, I just didn't know what to think about it until I finally got to, like, the last half of the game when it really did become a great Serious Sam game. Definitely look up Painkiller. Fantastic game. One of those like Middle European devs who just really good at math. So they made an amazing like throwback shooter, and People Can Fly, I'm pretty sure is a studio. They've had some pretty great projects since then. So excellent dev, but yeah, it started with Painkiller. Definitely worth checking out. I'm pretty sure there's a remastered version of the original. I think like THQ Nordic, what is now THQ Nordic. I can't remember what they were called before that, but they started going around like on an acquisition spree. And I remember liking the cut of their jib because the first thing they did was buy the rights to Painkiller and release an HD version of it, or a re-release, like they had brushed up version of it. And I was like, you guys are all right. You guys are all right. I like you. I like your taste. You got the moves. You got the juice. That's the thing. This is not so much Doom, really. Like, 2016 was a little more circle-strafey. Eternal is not like that. They actually did an amazing job through, like, some mechanical tweaks, making Doom not a back-run circle-strafe game, which is what, like, Serious Sam 100% is, and also Painkiller and things like that. So this game is very much in that vein, but I still really... Like, playing this really just exposes more and more how incredible the mechanics design in Doom Eternal is, and how they managed to like really one-up the headspace of Doom-style games. Can you think of any rip-off games better than the originals? I mean, anything Blizzard makes. It's tough to say. Like, I think that just dives into like, when do you consider something a rip-off? How much does it have to copy? And Medieval is way better than Hexen. Dusk is way better than the shooters that inspired it, which I guess would be like Blood? Blood's pretty good, actually. Like, the aesthetic of Quake 1 is not really something you can get anywhere else. Cthulhu Demon Mystic Shooter. Shades of that in Medieval, but not really. Yeah, this is more like a Medieval and Dusk. Oh, verticality and movement. Okay. Quake is a little more vertical. Then again, I would say that the more recent Dooms have been as well. I mean, I don't consider not knowing where to go next a problem, really. I think it's more a convention of like games made post 2008, where it's considered a failure of the game if for any moment you are slightly confused about what to do or where to go. I'm kind of okay with games being a little more hands-off and letting you bump around in an area until you figure it out. That's just me, though. I know a lot of people don't really have tolerance for that sort of thing. That may just come down to like conditioning, really. Be nice to have the option. Yeah, I don't mind that. I feel like there's no harm in putting a button in the game or something that like puts a glowing path for you. My concern is like, I don't know. I think there's an art to designing levels in such a way to draw players' attentions to places, but then, you know, then it's just a question of elegance. The elegant solution is to like light games in a certain way and use level geometry and color patterns to drive players' eyes to where they need to go next. The other is to just have a big glowing triangle over it. When you have to Google it, yeah. I mean, but Google's still there, you know? I feel like there's always a safety net. What is truly heart palpitating, I've been in this situation a couple of times, is when you're reviewing a game and you only have so long to beat it and you get stuck and you can't Google it because the game's not out. Ideally in that circumstance you have like you can hit up your secret SJW cabal of games journalists and ask them what they did or how they got through certain sections, but I never really had that. Was never really inducted into the secretive games media Illuminati. Is having to use the descriptions of landmarks and relative directions in Morrowind to find things. If you can play through Morrowind using only what the game gives you to find your way through the game, you can pretty much navigate any virtual space, I feel like. To me, I think Breath of the Wild struck the best, most natural gameplay balance between giving you a nebulous objective and then letting you loose to go get there however you can. It wasn't so much like it wasn't so much the tricky part of like figuring out the way to get there. It was which way is most ideal to get there. Something didn't feel right about Serious Sam coming out in August either. I don't know what it was. There's no number on it. I'm just glad it's here, man. I've been waiting for Serious Sam 4 for like 3 years. In the same year, we're getting Doom Eternal and Serious Sam 4. That's awesome. Why do they always release Serious Sam close to big release? Last time it was Skyrim, this time it's Cyberpunk. Those games I don't think are competing. I'm not worried about like people being too occupied with Cyberpunk to buy Serious Sam 4. I think Serious Sam's audience is probably in it regardless. Unfortunate truth of it is that if you're launching in the fall, it's going to be near something big. Anywhere you go, really. Yeah, Serious Sam 4 though. I'm still really, really excited for 4. Even though I haven't seen them dive into the mechanics of 4 at all, which leads me to assume it is a Serious Sam game, which is that you're running backwards and circle strafing the whole game, which I'm fine with. As long as there's like crazy heavy metal and weird ass enemies that make no sense. Also, like, one thing that kind of concerns me, and to some degree, this was an issue, it was becoming an issue at the end of Serious Sam 3, is that when the fights get big enough, once you find the right angle to circle strafe such that most enemies won't touch you, then it's just kind of like Dynasty Warriors. You're just firing bullets into a mass of enemies until you thin them out enough that you can progress. So if Serious Sam 4 is going up to like tens of thousands of enemies, what are we looking at? Like, are we just gonna be circle strafing away from clear for 20 minutes? Gunning them all down one at a time? I know that there are guns like the cannonball launcher that are a area of effect. So that's the sort of thing where you have to get them to all line up so your shot's really efficient and take out multiple enemies with one trigger pull. So I feel like if they're going to have that many enemies, the shooting mechanics of Serious Sam need to change. Or the gun mechanics need to change a little bit to make it so you can handle that amount of throughput. That's what Serious Sam 3 became, especially in the last level. Yeah, that's what makes me concerned about scale in Serious Sam 4. I mean, scale is like the banner feature of that game, so I'm glad. And also, Serious Sam is one of those games where it's like a shooter driven by tech. Crow Team wrote a really efficient and really good first-person shooter engine, and then they made a shooter with it, which is like the way things were done in the 90s. You find a new way to render color lighting, and then you made a shooter with it, and then we got Unreal. Not that the level designs of games like Quake and Unreal certainly back them up as fun gameplay experiences, but it wasn't like, it was shooters that followed the technology advancement, not necessarily technology supporting game design. Pro Team's not stupid, right? They played their own game, and they certainly have the experience at this point to know whether a game's fun or not. So I wouldn't expect them to release a game where, yeah, you have to shoot 10,000 clear and it takes 45 minutes of circle strafing and shooting. I think at this point I'd still even do that. Would you prefer a sequel to Control or a stream of DLCs covering the various objects? I'm kind of okay with booster shots of content. I feel like the process to make a full, totemistic, 60-hour sequel or whatever, the production realities around that, about getting it greenlit and finding a producer and all these things, it adds so much bloat and time to the process, whereas if you have an established platform and you can just iterate on that, I feel like that's so much more efficient to deliver new content. Then again, game developers have been trying to make this a thing for such a long time, and it just doesn't seem like anyone's really figured it out. I feel like Fortnite has done an incredible job with their content calendar, of always adding new content kind of as a live service sort of concept. Yeah, when it comes to single-player games, it just seems like there's no way to make the content fast enough to keep people's interest. Either the playable bits are extremely short, kind of like the Foundation was pretty short. It was alright. It was pretty short, though. But that's the kind of thing it's like. Or like the fact that there's been no Doom Eternal DLC yet, really. Or, I mean, there's been plenty of DLC, don't get me wrong. I super love all the skins and stuff they add to the game. Hasn't been any like single player levels though. Those just take forever to make. Hitman Reboot tried it. That's true. Hitman was probably the closest that anyone's ever gotten. Yeah, Telltale also probably got the closest with their episodic release schedule, but I feel like before long they started to realize the like drawbacks of never having time to go back and iterate on tools and engine. That became like the growing pains of that became very apparent after a while. So it cuts both ways. I feel like if you have to burn real hot to continue cranking out content to meet an expectation, then yeah, I guess the drawback maybe you lock yourself into a production schedule that doesn't allow for you to ever take a break, like you would do with a full sequel. Yeah, you can't do any engine improvements, ever, because people are constantly working in the engine and tool sets. Like, if you do an engine improvement and it crashes things or like, makes the assets unusable, guess what? You just dicked over the entire production slate, and that just doesn't happen. I feel like, we the gamers, kind of... I feel more than ever that, like, developers taking extra time on a game or releasing it in a way that is nicer to them and results in a better quality product. I'm all for that because I have so many games to play already. I am not starving for anything. Everything that I like to play, there's already a good version of it out and a better version of it coming out. So it's like, I am so stocked right now. I am not thirsty for game developers to accelerate their release schedules. I think you'd make a good game designer. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think so. I think I have the proper mindset to start approaching game design, but I certainly don't have the experience of doing it. Like, I know that game design is about concept and iteration. So I think I can identify some of the elements of game design that work and don't work in other games. And maybe that would allow me to start architecting out a gameplay system for an actual game. The actual process of creating and refining that, I think, is way different. For example, like, you can make whole gameplay systems that, like, should work, and then people just don't use them. That's where I think due to inexperience, where I would fail as a game designer. Like, I would put in mechanics that are intended to be used that people wouldn't use. And I would go insane if I saw something like the discourse around Doom Eternal and the Marauder, when everyone's like, it's bad and it breaks the game. I'd be like, I put the tools in there for you to use and even told you how to do it, and you insist that you don't want to. That's I think what would drive me insane. To me, game design is an intersection of both making a rule set that it creates fun game scenarios and making people want to explore and use that rule set. Is there a video game where teabagging is an actual mechanic? There was, believe it or not, and this is a weird window in Stephanie's past, a game called Pwned, which came and went in about a day. There was a taunt mechanic over player bodies, though. It was actually a really cool idea, unfortunately, but just did not launch with any kind of heat, and no one paid attention to it. But yeah, the idea was it was score-based, so it wasn't about how many people you killed, it was about how stylishly you killed them. And so you had to do stuff like dance on people's corpses, and if you finished the dance, then you would like lock in a score combo and stuff. But you were like vulnerable while you were doing it. So neat ideas of like, you could pull off all these acrobatics It was not a browser game. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. No, it was a Steam game.